Hello, I'm Chip Stites, and this is The Laughing Retirement. A few days ago, I got a question from Kathy S. And the question was so interesting, and it involved some of the things I went through when I moved here, that I thought, Kathy's got a good question. And she's got a question that a lot of people are answering or would like to have answered. So let's take a shot at it. Has your advisor told you if you move to Europe, you have to move your account? There are brokerage houses, particularly the major wire services, who will tell you, and by wire houses, I mean Goldman, UBS, Morgan, who will tell you that if you move overseas, they can't take care of your account. Well, there are multiple reasons why this is true and multiple reasons why it's not. And so once again, I want to thank Kathy S. for a great question. Now, if you have a question that you think others might be asking, that the answer might educate them as well as yourself, write me at info@thelaughingretirement. I'll respond to you and maybe it'll get on a video. Who knows? So let's go. Moving to a foreign country, lock, stock, and barrel can create problems, particularly for your investments. Now, one of the things a brokerage house has to know is that you are a citizen of the United States and that you have a permanent address in the United States. Now, when I first moved, I knew some of this, but not all of it. And so what I did created some problems for me, and we're working them out to the point where we won't have any problems. So number one, keep a permanent address in the United States, not a P.O. box. Just a P.O. box in the U.S. will not work. We moved our house from the state we were in, which was a high tax state, to a very low tax state, and we rent out our house, and sometimes we live in it. And that way, we have a permanent address in the United States. And this permanent address goes on my driver's license. It goes on our United States taxes. It goes on everything related to whatever is permanent to my address, whoever wants to know, that's where it goes. Now, you will pay taxes forever in the state that you leave. And so the tax rate in the state that you leave has a great significance. We lived in a very high tax state. We left it to move to Montana, and we bought a house in Montana. Now, the difference between what we were paying where we were, New Mexico, and what we are paying in Montana is gigantic. It has saved us a ton of money to move. So, since your state follows you wherever you go, you're best off leaving from a low tax state. Tax states with no taxes, well, Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming have all no personal income tax. Now, the same thing happens to your address, because your tax form, state and federal, will have a permanent address on it. Your driver's license will need a permanent address on it. Your brokerage accounts will all ask for a permanent U.S. address on it. And I use a mailing address under that, a digital mailing address, so that I can get my mail almost immediately and see it every day if I want, regardless of where I am. So that's important. Now, I use ipostal1.com, but there are a lot of them. One of the things I've noticed is the farther on I get, the higher the prices get with iPostal 1. So that's something you should at least be concerned with and understand. Your prices are liable to go up. Now, establish a digital P.O. box for all your mail. Now, what do I have go there? Well, my investment statements go there. My credit card statements go there. It's where all my mail goes for anything that has to do with a mortgage, anything that has to do with payments on credit cards, et cetera, et cetera. It all goes to the same place. The IRS has this address. So it's important that you keep the same address physically, permanently, and digitally all the time. Don't go changing them around. Now, why do you do this? It enables you to get all of your mail in a timely manner. And that is extremely important. I get a notice every time I get mail in my inbox. And that helps me, A, feel in touch, and B, it lets me answer things quickly so that people know I'm paying attention. I'm not out of the country, gone, can't reach me. That's not a good thing. Now, keep a US phone number with you. Why is that? This is the single mistake that I made that has complicated things a bit, and I'm fixing that. Keep a low-cost, active cell phone number with you that works both in the US and Europe, or wherever you're moving to, so that if somebody wants to send you an SMS message, like a security message to prove that you're you can get it right away, you can see it, and you can respond. Without it, it's a problem. Also, you will notice when you set things up sometime that somebody will say, what number can we call you on to prove who you are? You don't have a US phone number. You have a foreign phone number, and you say, well, my phone number in Italy is blah, 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 blah. They're going to say, I'm sorry, I can't call you in Italy. You want to have a US phone number. Is this more expensive? Yes, it is. US phones are a heck of a lot more expensive than our Italy phone is. As a matter of fact, US phones are more than twice as expensive as what we are paying here in Italy. But it makes sense to have something to stay in touch on a permanent basis with your accounts and your life in the United States. So the other thing I found is that say the same thing over and over again. Never change what you're saying. I live part-time in the US and part-time in blank. I go back and forth between the two. My permanent address is in the US where I pay my taxes. That address is my home. Period, end of sentence. That's what you say. I live part-time in the US and part-time in the EU. We go back and forth. I have a US phone with me always that you can reach me. My permanent address is in the US where I pay my taxes, and that address is my home. Say the same thing every time. I actually wrote it down, and I had it right beside my computer so that I knew if somebody called me, this is exactly what I was going to say about where I was. Now, brokerage houses. Major wire houses. I talked about this I think in the first frame a couple of minutes ago. Major wire houses are stricter in their rules. They're more difficult. They're more expensive, and they're more entrenched in what they do. You got one choice. That's it. Their way. Period. End of sentence. All pizzas don't taste the same. Okay. All spaghetti sauce is not exactly the same. I use Schwab. It is more independent. It allows me more choices and freedoms. I can talk to them directly online with my US phone. I can I can use their screens. I believe their stock information is better. I believe their information is more in-depth and more consistent and more up-to-date. What you do is your business. But when I teach people how to put their money together in retirement, when we talk about educating people to understand what they have and to get the most out of their retirement dollars, I use Schwab because I've looked at the others and they're nowhere near as good as Schwab is in terms of information, in terms of being able to screen, and in terms of inexpensive. So that's my brokerage house. Now, other notes. When you move overseas, and I'm talking about Italy here, you will have a consulate that covers your state or your county. That consulate may or may not have a backlog for getting an appointment to getting a visa because you're going to have a face-to-face visit at least to go to Italy. consider moving to a place that A, has lower taxes, and that B, will get you a visa faster. You've got to plan your move. Things are not as consistent overseas as they are in the US. And planning and knowing what you're going to do, knowing where you're going to go, is a great help in this huge change of life. Switching localities in Italy, it doesn't make sense, and it's not as easy as it is in the US. It makes sense to find where you want to go, stay there, and build a life there. Making friends. One of the first questions we were asked when we got here, are you going to stay or are you just passing through? They were serious. If we were going to only be there for 5 or 6 months, they were not interested in getting to know us. We've been here now for 7 or 8 years, and we have a lot of wonderful Italian friends. And the reason is we said, no, we're staying. We're staying. That's important to us. What do we have coming up? Well, we have a lot coming up. We have a master class on lowering your taxes 12 to 15%. That'll come up in mid-July. So stay tuned. We've got videos coming up about real estate in Italy and about taxes in Italy. I know I've been working on that for a long time. I had a bout of health concerns that took me out for about 3 months, but we're back and we're moving again. Now, if you have a question that you think other people might benefit from hearing the answer, write me at info@thelaughingretirement. In the subject line, put question. Now, I will answer your question at the very least. And who knows, like Kathy S., I might turn this into a Laughing Retirement video. It's nice talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Thanks. I'm Chip Stites, and this is the Laughing Retirement.